All right, let's go ahead and do your portion of the study guide that can be used with a calculator. This is all of our word problems and order of operations work. Okay. The reason you can use a calculator is we're really going to be focusing on our please excuse my dear Aunt Sally orders of operations. Okay. All right. Now, down here, this is actually not simplified. So your simplified version of divided by 2 over 2 is what we're going to be creating here through some cross-simplifying. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead through here. We have our order of operations says to take care of our punctuation first. The 1/3 and the 1/2 don't have common denominators, so I'm going to go ahead and use each other's numbers to create common denominators. And so we end up with 2/6 plus 3/6, which gives us 5/6. Okay. All right, now that we have our 5/6, I can go ahead and put that in parentheses. We have our 2 and then our exponent. All right, so next on the list after the punctuation is exponents. So I pull this out because I need to pay attention to my base. It's 4 times 4. We end up with 16 times 2 times 5/6. Okay. Now, next on my list is multiplication, whichever comes first from left to right. So I see my multiplication here. I am going to treat this instead as a 2 over 1. So I can do that multiplication. And we can multiply straight across, or if we want, you can notice that you can actually cross simplify, which will make it so you don't have to simplify possibly at all or as much later. So my numerator here divided by 2 is 1. My denominator here divided by 2 is 3. Okay, I can multiply straight across and I end up getting 5/3. So we have 16 minus 5/3. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this since we have subtracting fractions. I do not like subtraction, so I go to KFC to make me feel better. I need common denominators when I'm adding or subtracting fractions. And so I'm going to multiply by 3 over 3 and do a rewrite here. So 3 times 16, I can just do that on my calculator or real quick here. We end up with 48. So I have 48/3 plus negative 5/3. And now that I have addition, I can sing my song, different sign, subtract, keep the sign of the bigger digit, which will be positive, and subtract 48 minus 5, and we end up with 43/3. Okay, and if I simplified this, I would end up with 43/3. Okay, all right. There's my answer for that one. Now on to this guy. Let's check it out here. So we have our please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Starting with our punctuation, it looks like I have some punctuation here and then bigger punctuation here. I see I'm adding or subtracting fractions, which is annoying. Let's go ahead and KFC first right away. I cannot add with uncommon denominators. So I look, can I turn 2 into 6? I can by doing times 3 over 3. And so I'm going to do a rewrite underneath. I end up with 3/6 plus a negative 1/6. Now that we have our addition, we can sing our song, different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger, so I'll be positive. 3 minus 1 is 2/6. Okay. I'm going to keep that in parentheses now and do the full rewrite. Okay, so I have my bracket, addition symbol, bracket, minus 2, in parentheses, 3/2 squared. All right, I still have punctuation to take care of. So inside of this, though, I need to be looking at what's going on. So I actually have like a mini order of operations going on in here. And so I see first is my multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and do the multiplying first. So we can pretend this is 3 over 1 times 2 over 6. Let me just get that up a little bit. Again, always be looking if you can cross simplify first, and I can with this. So divided by 3 is 1, divided by 3 is 2. So I end up with 1 over 1 times 2 halves, and so we end up with a 2 over 2, or 1 whole, plus 4, and that ends up being 5. So I have this 5 minus 2 in parentheses, 3 halves squared. So we're done with our punctuation. We are now on to exponents. I'm always going to pull my exponents out. So I have 3 halves times 3 halves. We can multiply straight across, and we end up with 3 times 3 is 9, 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue down. So I have 9 fourths times, I'm going to go ahead and write this as a fraction instead, 2 over 1. Okay, now I can go ahead and continue my, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, and do my multiplication first, multiplying straight across. But again, can I cross simplify? Okay, I can cross simplify here. So divided by 2 is 1, divided by 2 is 2. And now we have 1 times 9 is 9, 1 times 2 is 2. And we have 5 over 1 minus 9 halves. Now write it as a fraction. I do not do subtraction fractions, so KFC. Now that I have addition, I can sing my song. Okay. Different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger, so we're going to be negative. However, I don't have common denominators, so I do need to make that happen first. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over 2. I end up with 10 halves, okay, plus 9 halves, so same signs out. I keep different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger, which is actually positive. 10 minus 9 is 1 half to finish it off, okay. So there we go with 1 half, and that matches over there, so I am good. All right, our last bit here are the word problems. So this is learning goal 17. You can solve word problems of rational numbers. Let's take a look at the directions. It says complete each word problem by drawing a picture, okay? Writing an expression that is matching, please, and answer the question with the label. Okay, so just what we've been doing every time we do these. Let's look at our information, take some notes. So it was this amount of degrees at 2 o'clock, and then it dropped. So I know dropped means a negative change. Okay, in an hour, what was the temperature at 3? So this is a situation where I know the change. And so if I know the change, I know that this is always going to be start plus whatever the change is. Okay, and that's always going to work in this situation. So my start is 75.5 degrees. Plus my change is a dropping temperature. That's why I made that note there of 15.1, but it's negative, okay? And then we can go ahead and solve. Now I do have to show a picture to show that I understand. So I'm just gonna have my starting degrees here at 75.5 degrees. I'm gonna show my arrow of change, okay? My change is negative 15.1 degrees. And then I'm going to put my point down here, which is my x variable, to show my picture. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and solve this. So same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. And so we're going to do 75.5 minus 15.1. I am allowed to use my calculator for this section. So with the calculator, 75.5 minus 15.1 is 60.4. Okay, so my value is 60.4 degrees, and my answer if my calculator will go away. Go away, calculator. My answer is, what was the temperature at 3 p.m.? The temp at 3 p.m. was 60.4 degrees. And there we go. Okay. All right. On to the next one. Scuba divers. All right. So we have a scuba diver standing on a platform 3.1 meters above sea level. That's a positive 3.1 meters. So I'm going to label that right away. Diver jumps into the water, stops at the top of a kelp plant that is 8.2 meters below the sea level. So below sea level is negative. Okay. How far down did the diver jump? So this means that I do not know the change. Okay. When I don't know my change, I'm doing the end minus start. So the end where he ended up was negative 8.25 meters, minus the start was a positive 3.1. I'm going to KFC that, okay? And let's go ahead and get our picture here. So we have some sort of platform with a scuba diver on it with his big flipper fins, okay? And this is at 3.1 meters. And then there's a unknown change that happens. So that's my X variable. I do have water here. And I do know my endpoint is where there's some kelp at negative 8.25 meters underwater. Okay, so there's my quick image. All right, let's go ahead and solve this. I have same signs, add and keep. So I do need to remember that this is going to be negative. I can go ahead and do this on the calculator because I'm allowed to use a calculator. And when we do that, I get 11.35, and that is meters. So I can go ahead and put my value over there and answer the question, how far down did the diver jump? The diver jumped 11.35 meters, and then down takes care of that negative. Okay. All right. And here we go. Last one. This one's pretty tricky. It doesn't have to be if you just follow what it's saying, but I would understand if it gave you a little bit of trouble. So let's take a look at it and really slow it down. So a new bike shop opened in town. The owner started a business with this amount. So that's my starting amount. So already I have an idea that I'm probably doing start plus some sort of change, but let's go ahead and look at what this looks like. Because I don't see anywhere here saying what their end number was. So it looks like I need to do start plus change to get that end number. But let's go ahead and see what's going on here. Throughout the first year, they had many expenses. Okay, so they paid this much in rent each month. Okay, that word each tells me multiply, and I know that there's 12 months in a year. Okay, so they paid that much for each month, and I see at the bottom here it says first year. They could spend 3/40 of is a hint for multiply, 50,000 each month. Okay, so that's times the 12 months. And then if you keep this business plan and make 1,000 in sales each month times 12, how much money will they have at the end of the first year? So that means I don't know my end point, but I do know the start. So our simple expression is we have start plus the change will equal my end. So my start I know is 50,000. Okay. The other stuff though is where it gets a little bit chaotic. Okay. So we have all of this stuff going on. So I'm definitely going to have parentheses to handle this. So they had to pay that amount for 12 months. So this is a negative amount because they had to pay it. And they did that for 12 months. Okay. Now they decided they could spend 3/4 of the original 50,000 each month to keep up their inventory. So they're also spending 3/4 of an amount each month. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and also add another amount of spending by making it negative. Okay, so we have 3/40 of, means multiply, the negative 50,000, or I could do it, doesn't really matter, I could say negative 3/4 of the $50,000, okay? But that's also times 12 months. And then if they keep the business plan and they make 1,000 sales each month, okay? So this one's not negative because they're actually making $1,000 times 12. How much money will they have at the end? So you can see I just sort of simplified that and broke it all up into its individual pieces, and then I have to use order of operations to solve it. So it is sort of an insane problem, but we can pull it off. All right, so I need to take care of everything that's inside of the punctuation. But remember, you can use a calculator to do this, so we can go ahead and solve this out, okay? So my $2,458.50 times 12. Let's go ahead and take care of that first. So I have $2,458.50 times 12. So we end up with a negative $29,502 for this. And then we have some more stuff going on here. So I have a negative 3/40. So 3 divided by 40 is actually just 0.075. So this is negative 0.075 here. So I can go ahead and multiply that by 50,000. And that is 3,750, and then times the 12. For this section, we get $45,000. Okay, but you do have to remember that it was negative times a positive, which is negative, times a positive, which is still negative. Okay, because it's an amount that we're losing. And then my last parenthesis is 1,000 times 12, which is 12,000. Okay, and that's an increase in payment. So now I have my original $50,000 plus those losses plus the gains. According to order of operations, we move left to right and work through here. So we have $50,000 plus the negative, which is actually different sign subtract. So minus 29,502. So we end up here with $20,498. And then let's go ahead and keep going here. So plus, now we'll take away the $45,000. So we have our 20,000 minus the 45,000. Okay, so we're now at negative 24,502. And then we are going to add the 12,000. Okay, so plus 12,000. And we are left with negative $12,502. Okay, so my value here is negative 12,502, and I need to answer the question. So if they keep this particular business plan, how much money will they have at the end of the first year? It will not be good. They will be in debt $12,502. Or you could say they will have negative $12,502, okay, at the end of the first year. So pretty crazy problem. All right, that's it for your study guide. The test looks exactly the same. The only other difference is you have to make a word problem for the last one with a given set of rational numbers, sort of like you did for your project. All right, that's it. Let me know if you have any questions.